Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dory and today I'm going to be talking about how you can keep yourself warm during those cold nights. If you're anything like me and you're cold easily and you're a cold sleeper, then this video is for you. There's a few tips I want to share with you that will make your next hike more comfortable and hopefully a little bit warmer. We're just getting into winter in the southern part of the world and I think this video comes at a good time. Also for you guys in Europe, like if you're in the mountains, it can get quite chilly at night. I still remember my first backpacking trip. It was in Scotland, it was in the mountains, and I was so cold because I was so super unprepared. I didn't have the right tent, first of all. That's a different story for another video. But I also didn't have the right clothes. I was not prepared for cold nights, and that's why I want to make this video. I'm going to be sharing with you a few simple tips that you can apply when you're cold at night. First of all these tips are based on 3 simple rules. Firstly, you can use your body as a heater. Secondly, your body loses heat the fastest at the ends of it, meaning your hands, your feet, and your head. And thirdly, the cold is coming from the ground up. As I just mentioned, your head is one of the places where your body loses its heat quickest. So what we can do to prevent that is obviously cover your head. And you can do that in a few different ways. First of all, if you have a hood on your sleeping bag, just use that at night. It'll keep you warm for a lot longer. If you don't have a hood or you're still cold, you can use a beanie. So I always bring a beanie with me on trail when I know the conditions are going to be a little bit colder. Personally, I use a merino wool beanie. It's very lightweight and the wool retains the heat a lot longer. It's one of the better investments I've made. If you want to check it out, I'll put a link in the description below, but that's not the point of this video. So this is my head. If you don't have a hood on your sleeping bag and if you didn't bring a beanie, another thing you can use to cover your head is actually a buff. Da, 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 da. So just twist it and put one over the other and you've actually got yourself a hat. So you can just put that on. This is one of the things I use a buff for, but I will do a separate video with all of the things that you can use a buff for, and once it's complete I'll be putting it in here, on here somewhere in the top as a link to you guys. Now, if you don't have any of these, so you don't have a buff, you don't have a beanie, you don't have a sleeping bag hood, the other thing you can do to keep your head warm is basically to use anything you have in your backpack to cover your head. You might have a jacket or a down jacket even. Anything to keep your head covered. It will help you keep yourself warm for a lot longer. The second thing I would suggest is to always bring an extra pair of socks. And by that I mean a pair of socks that you keep dry and you keep only for sleeping. It will keep your feet warm, so you will retain a lot more body heat for longer. I usually bring a pair of woolen socks. Again guys, wool is a material that will retain your body heat a lot longer, but you can just wear any type of socks as long as it's not cotton, because cotton is definitely something that you don't want to bring on trail. I will explain that in a different video, but the basic idea is that it smells and when it gets wet it doesn't dry quick, and it basically keeps you cold. Just watch out for that other video. When it's ready, I'll put it in the link here. But for now, you'll just have to do with this short explanation. So once we've covered our heads and our feet, one thing I would recommend as well is to invest in a good pair of thermals. You've got different types of thermals and different types of material, but as you already know, I am a fan of merino wool. I usually bring a pair of merino wool pants and a long sleeve merino wool t-shirt. Now you have different types of materials, as I mentioned before. And so one of them is merino wool, but you have different thicknesses. The level of thickness will determine for what weather it can be used, and how the thicker the material, also the more weight you will carry. Some brands don't have different thicknesses. Bear in mind, the thicker the layer of merino wool, the warmer it will keep you. Another good material for thermals is a mixture of merino wool and polyester and polypropylene, or polyprop as I would say. So these materials combined are a very good combination to trap your body heat. Again guys, there's different brands, there's different materials, but just be on the lookout for a good pair of thermals by checking the material it's made of. That brings us to the next tip. So your thermals can act as a base layer, but then again, if you're still cold, you can actually use a layering system. I can talk about layering for a lot longer than this video is intended to be, so I'll again make a different video about layering itself. The bottom line is, guys, you can just use a base layer, a mid layer, and then an outer layer. Your thermals can be the first layer, and then if you're still cold, you can wear a fleece, and if you're then again still cold, you could use a down jacket or another layer that keeps you warm, preferably wool. Talking about down jackets, it's another thing I would definitely invest in because it's one of my best investments I've made. It's very compact and it acts as a very warm layer, okay? The only downside is it cannot get wet. Get it? Downside? Oh my god. If you get my humor, then really give me a thumbs up. If you don't, also please give me a thumbs up and like this video and subscribe, guys. So tip number 5. In the beginning of this video, I talked about the cold coming from the ground up, and the next tip is really to insulate. I use my Thermarest mattress to sleep on, and Thermarest has a patented technology inside where they have like an insulated layer built into their mattresses. When I know that the conditions I'm going to are a bit colder than normal, I usually bring a reflective mat with me as well. That weighs like about 100 grams. It's not that expensive, but it will create an extra layer on the bottom, which will reflect your heat back into your tent or onto your body. But if you don't have a warm mattress or you don't have that reflective mat, another thing you can do is create a layer under you with your clothes. It's better to create a layer under you than to create a layer on top of you because, as mentioned before, the cold is coming from the ground up. So you will find that if you put your clothes under you, you will retain your heat a lot longer. Anyway, so always remember the cold is coming from the ground up, and use anything in your power that you can think of just to create extra layer. The next tip I have for you is actually my favorite one. I discovered this tip about a year ago, and it's so simple that I just thought, oh my god, why haven't I thought about that before? When I'm at home, I usually use a hot water bottle to put in my bed for those very cold winter nights, but you can actually do the same on trail. So what I do is before I go to bed, I usually heat up a little bit of water, and just before boiling point, I pour it into my drinking bottle, and that'll keep me warm. If you then put a sock over it or a t-shirt, then it will keep yourself warm without burning yourself. When I wake up in the morning, it's usually still warm, depending on how cold it's been at night, but it usually retains the heat all night. I sometimes use 2 bottles, one for my feet and one for my upper body, because again, I'm a cold sleeper and I like to keep myself warm at night. So just remember with this tip, don't pour the water in while it's boiling. Just always wait a little bit until it's below that boiling point. Also, if you're using soft plastic, you might find that after you've done it for a few times, the plastic will really start to wear out, and so it's better to use it in hard plastic. Tip number 7, we can use our body as a heater, and the way we can actually start our body heater is to drink or eat something warm before you go to bed, preferably a calorie-dense meal, because the way it works is your body will start working to actually digest the food, which means that your blood will be flowing and your body heats up, which means that you will retain the heat a lot longer when you're sleeping. Also, guys, obviously, if you drink some soup or tea, you will have that warm feeling inside, and it will definitely keep your mind off the cold. Just before you say anything, of course, another tip is to go to the toilet before you go to bed. There's nothing worse than having to go to the toilet in the middle of the night when you're all tucked in and you're warm, and then you have to restart all over again because you have to face the cold. So just keep that in mind. Then the next tip is actually don't go to bed cold. And this might sound simple, but it's easy to say that when you're cold, you just want to tuck into your sleeping bag and, you know, call it a night. But the best thing you can do is actually to move around and use your body to start the heating process again. The way it works is when you're moving, your blood will start flowing and your body will actually gain body heat. So you can do anything you feel like jumping jacks, push-ups, anything you want, just to get that blood flowing. And then you can go to bed and keep that warmth in your sleeping bag. Another thing to keep in mind is that dampness creates coldness. If you find yourself in a tent with high condensation inside, it might feel a lot colder than when you have no condensation at all. And of course that makes sense, but there's a few ways you can get rid of that condensation. And basically you do it with ventilation. When you ventilate your tent in a way that it reduces the moisture inside, you will feel instantly warmer or not as cold. There's different ways you can ventilate your tent. The main principle is basically to create that airflow inside your tent so then the wind can get through it and it will not retain that moisture inside. It will keep the air flowing. Alright guys, this is a lot of information to take in, I know, but we've finally come to the last tip, and that is choose your campsite wisely. One thing you can do on a very cold night is just to choose a protected campsite that will protect you from the wind and other elements. For example, if you're camping in the forest, you know, the leaves will act as that first base layer. So I would definitely suggest keeping that in mind. Of course, we don't always have a choice, and then the other tips will be very helpful. Just wanted to mention that in this video as well. Alright guys, these were my most important tips to keep myself warm at night. I know there's probably a ton of other things out there that I haven't mentioned, but if you know something that really works for you, please mention it in the comments below. It's always good to learn from other people as well. But these are my most important tips, and I really want to share this with you because in the beginning I didn't know these things. It definitely makes my hikes more comfortable. I have a lot more to share with you guys. I hope you like this video, and I really hope this will help you keep warm at night when you're on trail. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up and also subscribe. Don't forget to click the notification bell because then you get notified about upcoming videos. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!